Hello everybody, it's Adam Dye, amateur radio call sign N4NT, and in today's video I want to address the criminal aspect as far as criminal prosecution of the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, here in the United States. And also I'm going to touch on some things that are being reviewed right now as far as the FCC's civil procedures go and their imposition of fines and or forfeitures, as they call them. So first thing I want to do is look at their criminal prosecutions. The FCC actually publishes, there's a book that they have which they outline their procedures and even their own abilities of what they can and can't do, and all this is based, a majority of it, on the Communications Act of 1934. So the FCC says themselves in their book right here, it says Section 501 of the Act authorizes the FCC, in cooperation with federal prosecutors, to impose a fine of not more than $10,000 and or the criminal penalty of imprisonment for up to a year for a party convicted of willfully and knowingly violating the Act. A second conviction for violating any provision of the Act is punishable by a fine of not more than $10,000 and or imprisonment for up to 2 years. So there's another sentence here, but before I read that, so the FCC right here is outlining potential criminal penalties for violating FCC rules which they are authorized to enforce under the Communications Act of 1934. Section 501 outlines. So let me read the next sentence though. The FCC itself has no authority to initiate criminal action. Instead, it must refer the matter to the Department of Justice, or DOJ as they refer to it right here. So basically what that boils down to is there are laws of potential criminal implications for violating FCC rules that fall under the Communications Act of 1934. However, the FCC itself cannot enforce those rules. I know one of my previous videos, the FCC had imposed a fine of $60,000 on a gentleman for illegal broadcast radio. It says right here that they're limited to $10,000. There's various reasons of why the fella could be fined $60,000. It may fall under a different section, which I believe it does. There's also, depending on the counts as far as the offense goes, various things. But that particular decision or enforcement was strictly civil in nature, was not referred to the DOJ, and didn't fall under the potential right now for criminal penalty or imprisonment or anything. So that was sort of a different case. Now, to address that particular case, or similar cases, not just directed at that one, we look at what's going on today with the FCC. And by today, I'm making this video in April of 2026. And right now, as of April 2026, the FCC is facing significant litigation around its enforcement authority and regulatory scope. The Supreme Court is actually reviewing cases. I'd made a video on this without looking at this particular article, thinking that this had not made it to the Supreme Court at this time, but it has. It's there now. And so they're reviewing cases regarding whether the FCC's internal non-jury penalty process violates the Seventh Amendment. And one of my commenters actually mentioned this. They said they feel that it does. The Supreme Court's still out on a decision on this, but this sort of validates the gentleman's comment a little bit more, because as I was reading that, my initial thoughts, and for many years being a licensed ham radio operator and involved in radio in some form or fashion, the FCC has always kind of been what it's been as far as being able to impose civil penalties and suspend, revoke licenses and all that kind of stuff. And they could do that in your absence should you not answer a warning letter, or one of the letters that they send you as far as notice of apparent liability. Should you not answer that, then in your absence, they still can at the moment, under the current regulations. However, this case right here could change things dramatically. This case right here is looking at an example case of Verizon versus FCC, and there's a lot of moving parts to this, and that's not the full intent of this video right now. But it looks like that there's potential for a major court case decision regarding the FCC, and once that court case decision is made, then the FCC should know going forward, to proceed as usual, or are they going to have to go back on a few things, and are they going to have to change things as they move forward? What I like to do in my videos is try to give you an opinion as to where I think this will go, regardless of my personal opinion of where it should go. This is just strictly, I try to look at things from a discretionary look at it without any kind of personal bias or anything like that, just based on the norms. Sometimes in society, things tend to go a certain way, based on the leadership or whatever, and then that leadership changes and things go the other way. And I obviously, like anybody else, have my opinions of which way things should go, but also have the ability to kind of analyze based on where we're at and where things might go. And this one, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not. I can see reasons why that. The Communications Act of 1934 has been around since 1934. We're less than a decade away of that being 100 years old and it not being changed. And so they may, I'm a firm believer in the law says what it says and it doesn't say what it doesn't say. And if the Communications Act of 1934 has given the FCC the power to do it the way they've been doing it all these years, I don't know that that's going to get overturned or changed. They would probably have to overturn the entire act itself or sections of it. I work in criminal justice, but I'm not an attorney or anything like that to be able to deep dive into that section of it. But I can also see the FCC ruling on this particular thing and saying, yes, you're going to have to allow for jury trials because normal civil litigation allows for that. The difference in a jury trial, though, between a civil and a criminal act is if you're accused of some type of criminal act, and the FCC obviously could deal in either or. They're going to refer the criminal to the DOJ, but FCC violations, depending on how egregious and what they are, can end up in either situation. If you end up in a criminal situation and you ask for a trial by jury, then they're going to select a jury of 12 and a couple alternates, that kind of thing, and it only takes one in your favor or whatever, one descendant, somebody descending from the rest, to hang up the jury and mess up the process or whatever, just to where you don't get convicted. Or I say mess up if you're the one on the defendant side, that's not a mess up. But you know what I'm saying? It just throws a monkey wrench as far as a conclusion, and that could be in your favor. Now, civil, it's a up or down vote. There's 12 people and 7 say yay and the rest say nay, then yay wins. So that's a little bit different. But with civil, you don't look at any potential jail time or taking your freedom away from you or anything like that. It's just civil monetary penalties or in the form of suspension, revocation, even barred from ever having a license again. I hope this video was informative. I based this video, or the idea from this video came from a lot of the comments that I was getting on different videos that I do looking at FCC rules and laws. And I hope this kind of clears up some things. And I do realize that as far as the suit against the FCC right now with the Supreme Court, that's hung open. So we will, once that decision comes down, I'm sure I will, and a lot of other ham radio oriented YouTubers will probably report on that. So until then, thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, anything you can do to help me out to promote these videos, and I would greatly appreciate it. This is Adam Dye, N4NT, saying 7-3.